All right, welcome to 7th grade lesson 3.5, dividing rational numbers. Our objective is that I can divide rational numbers, including positive and negative, whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. Dividing rational numbers is almost identical to multiplying rational numbers. The steps are the same. So you need to choose to convert to either all fractions or all decimals, and then we're going to follow our dividing integers rules. Remember, when dividing integers, if you have the same sign, if you have a negative divided by a negative, you're going to get a positive. If you have a positive divided by a positive, you're going to get a positive. So same sign equals a positive answer. If you have different signs, you're going to get a negative answer. A positive divided by a negative is going to give you a negative answer. A negative divided by a positive, still different, is going to give you a negative answer. Alright, so here we have 6 divided by 1/4. 6 is a whole number, and it's easy to turn that into a fraction, so I'm going to turn these into fractions. To turn a whole number into a fraction, put a 1 under it. Now we have 6 divided by 1/4. When dividing fractions, we keep the first fraction the same. 6 over 1 is going to stay 6 over 1. We change division to multiplication. And to do that, we flip our last fraction. So then instead of 1/4, I'm going to do 4 over 1. So we keep, change, flip, KCF. Which I believe we also did in the pre-module review. Pre-module review part 1, you talked about dividing fractions, keep, change, flip. Refer to that, and there's some IXL down here if you want to do more practice with that. Alright, now we're multiplying. We multiply our tops. 6 times 4 gives us 24. 1 times 1 gives us 1. We have 24 over 1, which we can, because we took a whole number and turned it into a fraction by putting a 1 under it, so we can go the opposite direction. We have a fraction with a 1 under it. That's just the same as the whole number. So either one of those is an acceptable answer. 24 over 1 or 24. Alright, here we have negative 1.45 divided by 2/5. Negative 1.45 is going to be a little more difficult to turn into a fraction, so I'm going to turn 2/5 into a decimal. And if you remember, you've got your cheat code here. If 1/5 is 0.2, 2/5 is just double this, it's going to be 0.4. You can also turn a fraction into a decimal by doing top divided by bottom. 2 divided by 5 is going to give us 0.4. Remember, you can use a calculator for this. So I have negative 1.45 divided by 0.4. Now, I'm going to use a calculator. Now when I type this into my calculator, I am not going to include the negative sign. I'm going to add the sign on my answer at the end. So I'm going to do 1.45 divided by 0.4, and I get 3.625. Now here we have different signs. I have a negative divided by a positive. If I have different signs, my answer is negative. So I'm just going to put a negative sign on the front. Negative 3.625. Alright, next we have negative 2/3 divided by negative 0.5. 2/3, thirds are a difficult number to turn into a decimal because they repeat forever. So I'm going to turn negative 0.5 into a fraction instead. If If you remember, this is the tenths place, and this is also one of our cheat code common fractions. 0.5 is the same as 1/2. So this, we can say, is negative 1/2. So now I have negative 2/3 divided by negative 1/2. Remember, our rule is to keep the first fraction the same. Negative 2/3 doesn't change. We do change division to multiplication, and we flip our last fraction upside down, so I'm going to put the 2 on top, 1 on bottom, keep it negative, and now we can multiply. And again, I'm going to ignore the sign, I'm going to ignore the negatives here until I get my answer. I'm going to multiply my tops. 2 times 2 is 4. I'm going to multiply my bottoms. 3 times 1 is 3. And here, now I'm going to add the sign. Negative times negative, same sign, positive answer. So we're going to have positive 4/3. I don't need to put a sign on it, because if it doesn't have a negative sign, we know it's positive. All right, our last example, negative 1 4/5 divided by 3.2. I'm going to turn this into a decimal. And I don't have to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction first, because I know I'm going to end up with negative 1 point something divided by 3.2. So all I have to do is turn 4/5 into a decimal. So I can do 4 divided by 5. You can use a calculator. It's going to give you 0.8, and this is the part that we're going to put down here. So I have negative 1 and 4/5. 4/5 is worth 0.8, so I have negative 1.8. All right, now I'm going to use a calculator. I'm going to ignore the sign, just type the numbers in. 1.8 divided by 3.2 equals 0.5625. Quite a few decimals on there, and that's okay. Now we have to pick our sign. I have a negative divided by a positive. Our rules say negative divided by positive equals a negative answer. Different signs, negative answer. So I have a negative 0.5625. Go ahead and jump into your practice and let me know if you have questions.